Hey everybody, welcome back. David Eon and the lovely Miss Lady Pop Hunter here in the Open by Chance Media Lounge, and today we're just talking about dead culture, because we have seen things that were cultural within Americana that were a big deal even within our own lifetimes that have completely gone away or are dying. They're literally dying. And you can see a lot of this in media, in movies and television, things like that from the past. And sometimes people just don't understand what's even being talked about because it's faded away so long ago. It's kind of fascinating. And there are several that we've even seen, again, within our own lifetimes, just really kind of fade away and die, or they're pale comparisons of their former selves because they've been commercialized. And once that happens, I think that's really part of what kills it. Take, for example, if you look at music culture, because that was a big deal, music culture, and say, for example, MTV and the whole music video culture. That was massive, and now nobody cares. Music videos are something you pull up on YouTube. If you even want to see it.
And they're not like this big production that it used to be. I mean, I know music videos are expensive and you take it out of your pay and all of that. But now you have like cheaper productions, like with cell phones and your own video camera, and people are just kind of just standing around singing. But then you kind of saw that coming up in the late 90s to early 2000s, it wasn't this big production anymore. Music videos were almost like watching a mini movie sometimes. The video had something to do with the song. It was telling a story. But then you move to, they're just standing in front of the camera with a white background dancing. It turned to that. It was like, okay.
What's the point?
Yeah, it wasn't like, oh man, did you see, like when Michael Jackson did videos, it would come on prime time. They would announce Michael Jackson's new music video will be airing after this show or Sunday at whatever time. And people waited and they turned the TV to watch it because it was going to be this big production. I remember Guns N' Roses. I think it was Guns N' Roses. It was November Rain. That was a big one. Wasn't that the one that was done in reverse? Like the whole video was done in reverse? I don't know if
I don't remember.
No, okay. I don't think it was that one. Now that I think it was another music video. But they did the whole video, then they kind of played it in reverse, and it was interesting. But yeah, music videos are, I don't even know if they make music videos.
Or if they do, it's garbage. Somebody's they'll film it with their cell phone at the gas station or something and throw it up on YouTube.
Oh, in their backyard. We were walking one day and the boy was in the driveway and he was rapping. You could hear him. He had the cell phone in front of him. And he standing there. And we doing our daily walk in the neighborhood. And he's standing in the driveway.
Yeah, I know. Throwing gang signs.
Yeah, not with the house behind him, but like you could see the road. So I'm sure we're in the video. He's just coming up behind him. And it's like, okay, dude.
And speaking of which, true rap and hip hop culture, we saw that rise and fall within our lifetime when rap was a real thing in the streets, connected with breakdancing. People would go to places like, downtown areas and street performers and do breakdancing. It was a big cultural thing. And then it got really, really monetized, I guess you could say, when they realized they could make a lot of money out of it. And they started manufacturing rappers and manufacturing hip-hop artists. And it's just not the same anymore.
Well, it used to be you had the rap battles and you were on the street, or you went to Kind of like a talent show, I guess. But it was more fun when you were on the street. So you had two people and they did this rap battle. You said your part and they said their part, and you were kind of like dissing each other, but it was in fun and jest. And you had that, and that died away. Like I said, you went to talent shows. You picked out the best rappers from there. And then again, the hip hop culture came around in the mid to late 90s, and that stuff died away.
Well, earlier than that, but
Yeah, but it really just
where it started to rot and got very commercialized, and then got violent and really vulgar. That started in the early to mid 90s, and then that's killed it, and it's unidentifiable now. The same thing could be said of punk rock culture, because that, and a lot of people, they look at punk, oh yeah, it's so punk, or the punk music. It's not about the music. That was a counterculture that came out of the UK. Those people were living protests against an entire system. It was a real thing. But when industry got their hooks into it and they turned it into a brand, that's what killed it, and it faded away. The music, there are people that still produce that kind of music or that wear that kind of look, but that counterculture, the true counterculture of what punk rock actually represented in the late 70s and early 80s is dead. That's not real anymore. And there are other things that we've seen that weren't within our own lifetime that have died as well. If you're old enough to remember, and you used to watch like Saturday afternoon movies, and you saw beach blanket bingo and things like that, the surfing culture.
Yeah, and the Beach Boys talk a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, the majority of their songs are about surfing and cars.
Yeah, a lot of it is cars.
A lot of it is car references, drag racing, but we're talking about surfing, but a lot of it is going to the beach, going surfing, surfer girl, these type things. But that was a whole thing. You had Gidget? Was it Gidget? Yeah, Gidget. You had all of these movies. People went to the beach and stayed out all night. They had surfing competitions. They still have surfing competitions.
Those were unofficial. These are guys just out there challenging themselves, and they lived on that. They slept on the beach. So they built a shack out there. They lived in a shanty just so they could be at the beach all the time. They ate out there. It was a lifestyle.
Yeah. I mean, they had their own language, and all of it did. I mean, punk had their language, their look, their style. Rap had their language, their look, their style. Surfing, their look, their dress, everything you were almost identifiable by the way you looked and the way you talked. Oh, okay, you're a surfer boy. You're a punk. You're a rap. You're in the rap game.
When calling
culture.
somebody a beach bum wasn't derogatory, because if somebody was hey, you're a beach bum, that's because they lived out on that beach. They surfed. They were in great shape.
Yeah.
They were living a life. They were living a life. Now it's a sport.
Yeah, it's a sport. You go to surf class. I mean, it's official surfing competitions. I don't know if people still sleep out and live out on the beach.
Probably
not like that.
Not unless they're homeless.
Yeah, you're a hobo or something like that. But that was a whole lifestyle. You had music, movies, all based on it. I mean, shops came up. The surf shop. I think the name of it was Surf Shop. You had Pan something. I can't remember the name of it. I could see it in my mind. But it was, you went to the boardwalk, you saw a lot of shops based on that culture, which none of it exists anymore.
No. And tying in, like you mentioned, Beach Boys, that car culture too, where people building up a jalopy, making a hot rod was a thing. And all these guys, they knew the ins and outs of a vehicle, and they swap parts, and they would race, and they would soup up cars, and they try to paint them up pretty, and that was a big deal. That was a big deal, and you see a very remnant of this now if you go to car shows, because if you go to these car shows, who are these guys that are at these car shows? They're all like 80 years old. Because they're the leftovers from that culture that still have their hot rods, that still have their fancy or pretty or done up cars. But there are still hobbyists who do that sort of thing, but it's not the same.
Yeah, because you got the younger guys now. I know it's this one guy at work, and they call it meetups. So we're gonna go to this one place, and we're gonna meet up, and they're gonna they do the drag racing, they do drifting. This car got a drift kit, and then I know in Atlanta is a big thing. Street racing is illegal.
Yeah.
But you go down to downtown Atlanta, and the kids are down there drag racing in the middle of downtown. You see it on the interstate. I hate it. They do it at nighttime. You'll see two cars beside each other, and they slow all the way down, and everybody behind them thinking it's an accident. It's not. They lining up, they give each other the signal, and then they shoot down the interstate. And it's like, dude, you're going 100 miles an hour on the interstate. And the interstate in the Atlanta area never slows down. So it's always packed.
Which is a modern cultural thing, but it's not the same as the type of car culture we're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I remember growing up, I had some cousins. They would build drag racing cars. Now, in the culture we're talking about, you saved up your pennies, you bought an old muscle car, and you souped it up so you could take it drag racing. And people would bring my cousins in their cars, they would fix it up, and then take it to the drag race. And we used to go and watch them, and that was fun. Like I said, if you listen to a lot of the Beach Boys, Ronnie, the guy name is Ronnie Daytona. Ronnie and the Daytonas. They got GTO, that song, talking about a car. I mean, so many in the 50s and early 60s. The majority of the songs were talking about cars. They sound like love songs. If you listen to the words.
And in those days, those people who listened to the radio or listened to the music, they knew what the references were. Nowadays, you have no idea what they're talking about.
Yeah, 4, 9. I mean, it was just a lot. And you listening, you're like, they're talking about a car.
That's a car, yeah.
But yeah, that and you think about it, and you're like, man, I would have loved to just see all that. And you see it in movies. We watch
American Graffiti is a good example.
American Graffiti. You got a couple of other ones where they're like, oh, let's go out to the spot and we're gonna race. And, it's this big thing. All of the kids go out there and somebody stands in the middle and waves the flag. But now it's just, I don't know. It's different than it was then. They kind of do it, but it's not the same.
Speaking of vehicles, the whole trucker culture, because that was a big deal. People have no idea nowadays, even because the government regulated that right out of existence. Because they used to stick together. They would convoy together to prevent hijacking and to prevent passing through towns and territories and counties where truckers would be basically molested by law enforcement. Law enforcement, they'd tear them apart and ticket the shit out of them for nothing.
Yeah.
And so they would travel in these huge convoys and block out law enforcement, block out Old Smoky, as they would say, or to prevent hijackings, and they would stick together. It was a whole interior culture, and it was regulated right out of them. You can't have passengers anymore. You can't do anything anymore. And they unionized, and the unions helped to kill that.
Unions,
without getting into that, but yeah.
But I mean, you had this whole CB. Everybody
that
had
ties
a
into
CB,
it too.
And you talked and you communicated with each other. They tell you, oh, police is up ahead, or if you're on this interstate, you got a jumper. And they had one in Atlanta. I think about 2 years ago. This person was on 285 and 85 over the bridge, and these truckers were in the front, and they all stopped. So they stopped and backed up traffic because it was a person about to jump.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they had, control like that. And I've seen videos where the police was chasing somebody and the truckers got side by side to slow the car down.
Yeah.
To kind of help out.
Or to protect someone. They would box someone in to cover for them. And they all coordinated and they all worked together and they all knew each other.
Yeah.
It was a whole big deal. And now that's dead.
Yeah,
it's really dead.
You had your handle.
Yeah.
Nobody hardly has a CB anymore.
No.
Because everybody uses a cell phone. They don't want to talk to nobody. They got their cell phones. They got their GPS, and they just go. And
CB radio was another culture too, because that was a big deal. Even people who weren't truck drivers and people would be at home on a CB just listening to people chatter or creating a handle and getting involved in conversations.
Yeah. And now all of that is gone. And I remember when my dad was a truck driver, he had a CB. I don't remember what his handle was, but I rode with him one time, and you can hear the truckers just talking back and forth. And then they would see a truck pass, and they'd say, "Hey, so-and-so, is that you? I'm on I-95 going south in this area." "Yeah, that's me." Oh, then they'll start chatting back and forth. Or they'll just ask a question. "Hey, anybody know any truck stops near here?" And they'll say where they are. Or any good place to park, any good place to eat. And, somebody, yeah, get off on this exit, make a right, tell Linda I said, hey. It was stuff like that, but not anymore. All of that's gone.
Yeah.
And it's like sad. It's like, how did we get to just end everything? I mean, all of the culture, and we're not done yet, but it's just, like, how did we get to where none of this is not acceptable, but it's just died? How did it just die?
How did it just die? And you see some of that on Route 66 too. If you ever watch that show, people watch that show now. They don't understand it at all because that hobo culture was a thing too, where they were just drifters and they drove around from city to city, state to state, and they just pick up an odd job here or there, work for a week, get gas and food money, and drive somewhere else. People did that to travel the country. In the United States, in Europe, places like that, you can't do that anymore because you can't just go pick up work like that.
No.
You can't do it. I did it when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I walk into some place, hey, you're looking for employees. I'm looking for some work. I walked into a flower shop that way and got a job, and I walk into the Boston Globe office and got a job. And cash. Cash payment. I don't care what your social security number is. Yeah, sure, kid. I don't care how old you are. You can't do any of that anymore. It's been regulated out of existence.
And I mean, yeah, it was cool. You could just walk in. I kind of understand why they got away from it, but it was much easier when you could just walk through the door. Hey, man, you need some help around here. Oh, what are your skills? What can you do? Or, yeah, I just need somebody to, clean up, a little janitor's, light maintenance work, something like that. Now you got to write out this application. You need a resume. We got to do an interview. We got to get a background check. And then
that was your interview. You either felt right or you didn't.
Yeah.
And it was like they'd say yes or no.
Yeah.
I
got my job at McDonald's like that. I walked in there. I'm like, hey, I need a job. They sat down with me on the spot. How you going to get to work? I don't know. I'll get here every day. What time you want me here? I got there every day. Didn't have a car, caught a ride.
There you go.
Every day. I got 2 jobs like that. I walked into, it was Sizzler. The Sizzler. It was a restaurant. Walked in. Hey, I need a job I could do waitress work. Have you ever done waitress work? Yeah, I work, for this, what you call those people? That catering service. Yeah, I did catering work before. The lady was like, yeah, we need somebody. When can you start? I can start tomorrow. All right, come on in.
Sure.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
No, you got to have an
That's
interview. Even
dead.
for McDonald's, you got to have an interview and a background check, probably.
Yeah, of course, they're gonna do all of that. They're gonna do all of that now, and because it's all the government's gonna make sure it gets its tax out of you. So they've done away with all of that. They've done
Yeah.
away with that entire culture pretty much. Other things that we've seen die in our lifetime: mall culture.
Oh, yeah.
Mall culture. I mean, malls were a big deal going all the way back to the 1960s, right? Yeah, when that first started to get real big in this country, and in the 80s, I think, is when it culminated. Most cultures that we're familiar with seem to have hit its pinnacle in the 1980s.
Yeah.
And mall culture was one of them, back when places were packed and people would just wander around all day. They had nothing to do.
No.
They're window shopping, or they'd hang out in the food court.
It was
or-
a babysitter. Or, yeah, like a babysitter. A place to drop your kids off for a couple hours.
I never had that. I used to go on my own.
I
But,
never had the mall culture because we lived in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
So we went to the mall maybe once a year.
Mm-hmm.
And we were with our aunt. We weren't allowed to just wander.
Oh boy.
You didn't wander around the mall. So I didn't have that culture, but I did see it on TV a lot. Parents would drop their kids off. They would wander around, give them some money. Yeah, I'll meet you back out here. And that was that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, arcade culture, because we grew up through the expansion of that when the arcade machine became a huge, big deal. And they were everywhere. They were in laundromats, they were in
Yeah.
the supermarket, and they had the arcade. If you were lucky enough to be close to an actual arcade, which there was one in the mall, Watertown Arsenal, where I was growing up, and man, talk about hot spots. Those places used to be jammed. They were jam packed, making money hand over fist, I'm sure. And that's faded away. Actually, home systems killed that. So why run to the arcade when I can do this at home?
Yeah.
Once it got good enough, because the early stuff, like if you look at the Atari Pac-Man and compare it to the arcade Pac-Man, the home Atari Pac-Man is pathetic. But once home arcade systems got good enough, which really kind of started with Sega Genesis, that they could compete with arcade systems that you would find in an arcade or out and about. You put quarters in, that culture started to fade away. It started to drift.
They trying to bring it back, but I don't think it's working.
It's a nostalgia thing for people our age.
Yeah.
Where you pay one fee and you go in and it's just open source, the whole room.
Yeah.
And there's a few of those around, but that's just nostalgia.
I've seen one. I passed one, and it was a storefront, and it had the sign arcade, pay, pay one time. And you look in, and it was like a wall to both walls, just full of arcades. So they trying to bring it back. I know there's one around here in Atlanta. Is like a arcade and bar and all kinds of stuff. I don't know. I that was another culture I didn't have experience with, because I didn't live anywhere near an arcade. So you didn't go where they had a million of them and people stood around one person and watched them play, and I didn't experience that.
Okay. Going back a step, one of the older ones, barbershop quartets, glee clubs, people that used to, and you see this in old films and stuff, where you'd have a group of guys or, other people standing on a corner and they'd all try to harmonize and sing together. You used to see that in high schools, out in front of high schools, out in front of colleges and universities, and that's one that was dying as we were growing up, because that goes back a lot further to the from the turn of the last century on through to like about the 1970s, and then that started to really die even then. But, you still had a remnant of it, but
Yeah. because you see a lot of like bands or groups were founded that way. I know you watch a lot of stuff about Motown and about the Philly sound and the Memphis sound. A lot of those groups were found by the people just standing on a corner singing, or they went to the record studio and sang. Another thing that almost kind of ties in with that, when I was growing up, you made a tape and you turned it into the radio station, and they had a thing called hit or miss, and they would play a song that you turned in, and they were like, and then you had to call in, it's a hit, it's a miss, and if it had, you had like an hour, and then they would tally it up, and if it was a hit, they would play it for like a month, and then they'd cycle through. I don't think I'm almost sure they don't do that anymore. But that's how it used to be. It started with rap like that. When the rap culture came in, people would do their rap battles, like we said, and they got heard by producers. You made your demo tape, because that was a big thing, my demo tape, and you would turn it into the radio station or to a producer or something, or just hope that while you were on the corner you got heard and somebody picked you up. But now you do something, you put it on YouTube, and you hope somebody see it. That's how I heard that's how Justin Bieber got found. I don't know. I've heard like a couple of stories that he did some stuff on YouTube, and one of the big people heard him, and then they picked him up like that.
Yeah, I heard that's how South Park got picked up. That somebody like George Clooney or somebody saw him and talked about it, and that drew attention and got them noticed. But I think it was George Clooney, but I don't remember.
Right.
I don't remember exactly. And we have a few that we know of that we're watching die in our lifetime right now. Well, the first one other one was coupons. I know that seems like a stretch, but coupon culture was a big thing. That's why the Sunday paper used to come with these big batches of flyers, and people would clip them out, or they'd mail away for coupons, or they'd cut them out of the circular. They came from the supermarket, came with coupons also, and you could double them up, and they had this whole system. Double coupons, triple coupons, all of that. And that's all gone. There's no newspapers anymore anyways. They're practically extinct. They don't mail coupons to your house anymore. Nobody's looking for coupons. I don't think it was a cultural thing, because there were clubs that they would share them with each other, or they'd collaborate, and they'd go on these shopping trips together to try to basically gouge as much as possible out of the supermarket or out of the department store with the coupon shopping. You don't see that at all anymore. You don't see that at all anymore. And I saw that might be a stretch for some people, but I remember that being a huge big deal. There was even reality shows based on it in the early 90s.
I saw the ones in the 2000s, extreme couponers. Yeah. And they would show these people, and they had so much during coupon, they actually got money back, because they had so much coupons. Yeah, it's crazy. This one lady, she was on there. She was so good. People would ask her to shop for them just to save, because she loved doing it. She liked getting a deal. I mean, we use coupons, but
you rarely get them anymore.
Yeah, you got to go to the app, and you got to download it, and then you try to say, okay, I'm going to buy whatever's already on clearance or what's already on sale, and, so you could get all of this extra stuff.
I don't want another damn app.
Yeah.
I'm sick of apps.
And then you get 5 for $5. You got to buy 5 things in order to get this much off. Please. And now you're walking around saying, I don't need 5 things. I only want this.
Yeah, and you got to let that go sometimes, because it's like you don't need all that extra crap. Trust me. But again, stuff we're watching die now. Yeah. One of them, and I think this is a big one, is wrestling culture.
Oh, that's been gone.
Yeah, Bobby Heenan said as much before he had his last surgery and couldn't speak anymore. He said as much. But without the kayfabe, without that that confusion, without that mystique around the wrestling, where is that real? Did that happen? You know, now everybody knows it's all set up.
Well, I honestly believe with that. I'll stake on this until somebody proves it otherwise. When that little boy killed that girl, they had to come out. It had to be like, okay, this is not real. Because that boy, I've told this story before, he was already mentally disturbed. He was mentally disabled. And they were watching wrestling, and he started doing the moves on this little girl that his mom was babysitting, and the girl died. And you know, and they asked him, I was like, yeah, we were watching wrestling. I was just doing the moves, and nobody gets hurt, and blah blah blah. But you know, his mental state and all of that. I think, and I might be wrong. I think then they really had to just like, look, this ain't real.
I thought, for me, it's right after the Toronto screw job, as it's put, with Bret Hart.
Bret Hart.
Because a couple of weeks after, Vince McMahon came out to publicly address it. And this is when people found out that he actually owned the WWF and that he wasn't just a ringside announcer. Okay? And he literally laid it out. This is what we do. This is how we do it. Bret Hart, blah, blah, blah. And he basically spilled all the beans right there and said that it's set up, it's staged, whatever. That's what flung that door open. The whole Toronto screw job really screwed the entire industry. It really screwed the entire industry, because now that everybody knows that it's set up and there's no, again, mystique around it, what they called kayfabe. There's no mystique around it, where you're never sure, where everywhere everybody went, they were always in character, no matter what was going on. I remember, what's his name, Bad News Brown, in an interview complaining about Bret Hart once. Because Bret Hart gets on a lot of people's nerves, but he said because they were in a match in Canada, and Bret Hart's eye was supposed to have been injured, and he was supposed to have an eye patch on, and he saw him out driving, no eye patch, and he's like, "You bitch, what are you doing?" He was like, what the hell is this? Because he wasn't maintaining that illusion. He was driving around without the eye patch on it, and I'm not quoting him exactly, but Bad News Brown was furious about him doing that. That's how serious it was. Without that, we've been seeing over the years a constant decline in interest in wrestling at all, to the point now where they're sitting there, and there's a million videos on YouTube. WrestleMania, the current WrestleMania, the tickets aren't selling. What's going on? Nobody cares anymore. No. Nobody cares.
It died for me in the mid-90s. I've said it. But before that...
That's right around that time.
Yeah. Before that, I started realizing, I don't think this is real. I mean, because you
and then every once in a
it.
while they throw you. You start saying, "Oh, that couldn't be," and then something would happen.
But I remember, because like I was suspicious, because you know, you hit somebody, you stomp your foot. You hit somebody, you stomp your foot. And you know, as you get older, and now I'm a teenager, and I'm like, you start putting two and two together. Then it really messed up for me. It was one of the WrestleManias. I don't remember which one in the 90s. I was at my cousin's house, and he had pay-per-view. We were watching WrestleMania, and it was The Undertaker. He was wrestling. I can't remember who, but the camera was in the wrong spot. So he did his tombstone, and you could see that the guy's head was like a good 6 inch off the ground. Because the camera was like a direct on shot. They didn't do the side angle like they normally do. And, you know, I had already, like I said before, I already knew that this might not be real. Because you could see that when they were about to do the move, the person was setting themselves up. Like they would put their arm around the person that they were wrestling, or sometime both of them would be knocked out and they would be laying there forever, and then one of them would like tap the ground or hit to say, okay, I'm ready to get back in there.
Yeah.
You know, you saw things, but you still wanted to believe that. I don't know if I ever truly believed that it was real.
Yeah, you did.
I know, but you still wanted to believe that, well, they putting on a good show. I mean, now going back and watching it, because we go back and watch the old ones.
Yeah.
You can see why people thought that this stuff was real.
Yeah.
And it's still entertaining. Even though we know good and well is fake, it's still interesting to watch because they put on a performance. I mean, the way even the managers flip over the rope, it's like, man, you sold that. You flipped over that rope.
Jimmy Hart and Bobby Heenan deserve a lot of credit for that because they took some of the biggest bumps in the business.
Yeah, they did.
Getting thrown over turnbuckles and stomped on and all this other stuff. And it's like, golly, man, he actually took that pretty hard.
Yeah.
But
so,
you know, it's a good example. The Mike Tyson as the special referee in that one WrestleMania, and he's supposed to punch out Shawn Michaels. He's punching ghosts. He threw that punch and Shawn Michaels went down, and the angle, like you had pointed out, angle was all wrong. He wasn't even close. I mean, because you think he'd be skilled enough to get in there real tight and make it, you know, within a hair's breadth of actually hitting him in the chin. He must have been 8-10 inches away. And Shawn Michaels still hit the deck. Yeah. And I was like, oh, come on. You know, at least try, guys. But that's when it was really getting wonky anyways. And WCW had like RoboCop and crap. But
a funny one. I know we're not talking about wrestling. This is the last one I'm gonna make. We were watching, like, I think it was WrestleMania 2, and they had the guest referee Muhammad Ali.
Oh my God.
And Muhammad Ali started fighting. And it was like, dude, you're supposed to be a referee. You ain't supposed to be hitting on people.
Well,
but it would have been funny if they had just really went with that, you know? But, yeah, they did do a good job in the beginning of making you believe it. And then it just fell apart. And now it's like, I don't know, because I haven't watched it since, like I said, the mid-90s, when I would visit my parents, my dad and brother watch it, and I would watch with them. But I'm like, what in the world is this garbage? But yeah, that whole thing, you had your signs, you made your signs, you wore your shirt, you had all of that stuff, you screaming, you yelling, you throwing things in the ring, people trying to jump over the barriers to actually fight with the wrestlers. All that's gone.
Yeah, and when I forget his name, that one wrestler, he had died from a drug overdose, and it was being investigated, a possible foul play, and they actually went and were trying to interview the guy that he had been in a match with recently, because the storyline was that he had received an eye injury.
Oh, yeah.
And they thought that he might have done something out of revenge, and they're trying to carefully explain to the police, there's no eye injury, okay? Just, you know, because people really believe that stuff. Yeah,
they did.
And paraphrasing a little bit of Bobby Heenan in that interview, where he talked about it, he said, without that kayfabe, and I think the example that he gave was a magician. And he says, if you were going to go and see a magician and he was going to explain every trick before he did it, would you really want to see it? And that's what's happened. Yeah. Now, everybody knows the tricks. You gave it up. Why would anybody want to continue to see it? And that was his explanation for why wrestling was just going to continue to sink as time went on.
Yeah, it became a reality show. It was like, I mean, going back and watching it now, it was like a soap opera because they had ongoing stories and fights going on that you had to watch this episode to know what happened there. Why are they talking about this? So you kind of had to follow it. Now it became like just a reality show. Period.
Yeah.
Just,
It's like a soap opera.
yes, it's like a raunchy reality style soap opera that not interesting.
With acrobats.
Yeah, with no storyline. Because at least before you had storylines and stuff like that.
And they kept it simple.
Yeah.
They kept it simple. Like George the Animal Steel. Elizabeth!
Yeah, he was in love with Elizabeth.
Yeah. And goofy stuff they would do, like Albano with the machines. And it's like, oh, Hulk machine. And it's like, that is obviously Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, giant machine.
Giant machine. Or, and the guy, they're supposed to be from Japan, and he'd give the guy the microphone and be like, Yamaha. Mitsubishi.
Like, dude, what are you talking about? You ain't Japanese. He's throwing out some car names.
I know. Fuji. You just say words.
Yeah, just random stuff.
It was hilarious.
It was.
But that was a lot more fun in those days. Another one that's dying, if I could throw this out here right now real quick, is music appreciation, if that makes any sense to you. But listen, we come from an era where, you get vinyl records or even on a cassette tape, and there were nuances to it. You have a home system. We have a home system. And you put on that vinyl, and there's an experience that comes from it. And even the way that it's laid out, if the speakers are set up right, you can even feel where the music's coming from in a manner of speaking. Like, it's like, okay, bass guitarist, he's over here. Drummer is up here. You can sense it. You don't have that anymore. You don't have that anymore with digital music. You don't have it anymore listening to it on YouTube or listening to it on your phone. It's all one tone set to one sound setting. There are no nuances to it. There's no waves. There's no background sounds. There's nothing. Everything is on the same wavelength, which is like 10. They turned every sound level up to the highest it'll go and put it into this digital music. And that's something a lot of people, especially younger people, they don't even know the difference because they've never heard anything else, which is also why within when we go to the record shows, you see a lot of young people, because those are the young people who did hear the difference and they were into it. They're like, wow, this is so much better than listening to it on the phone, listening to it on the computer, listening to it on the TV set, where all the sound is on the same exact level. It's been digitized for that system, as opposed to having it played in its natural setting, which most people that are under 30 very likely have never experienced at this point. And so I think that appreciation of music in culture is dying as well.
Yeah.
But I mean, we could go on and on and on. There's probably a 100 other things that we could come up with that we've seen fade in our lifetime, or looks like it's fading away now, or has already disappeared. You can make the same argument for DVDs. So you can make a same argument for a lot of stuff. Movie going is a culture that's dying right now. Movies were massive for like a century. And now it was already dying before COVID. You could blame COVID if you want to. It was already on the decline. And now it's like they got to fight to even get people into theaters. They got to come up with gimmicks like popcorn buckets to get people to even show up.
People, they want their popcorn bucket and leave.
Yeah, and then, or the movie, they'll watch the movie if it's there, but they really don't care about it. They wanted the damn bucket. But we can throw it out there. Hey guys, you must have some other thoughts about it. Keep the conversation going. Tell us, what else could we add to this? What else could we add to this discussion? Tell us about it in the comments section down below. Please do give us a thumbs up. Greatly appreciate it. Hype if you're able to. Share it if you can. Subscribe if you're new. All of that good stuff. And if that is it, then what more can we say but thanks for watching. And we will see you again soon.